James Lofton was on the sidelines of that game for Westwood One, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. James, I'm wondering how you feel about this Super Bowl 2 days later.
Going into the game, and I apologize for not getting on your show while we were down in Houston,
good.
And I probably didn't get the goodie bag. Did you save my goodie bag?
Yes, size medium for you, James. Yes.
Well, I need to be able to use to run my 40 at the combine.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Sure.
Going into the game, I, like a lot of other people, had noticed that the Patriots had been in 6 Super Bowls under Brady and Belichick, and each one of those games had been a one-score game. There had not been the 35-10 blowout that you think of. Oh, you think of all these great Patriot teams. Every game had been a nail-biter. So as this game is, unfolding, and it's 21-3, then it's 28-3, then it's 28-9. You're thinking, man, well, it was bound to happen. The Patriots are going to get blown out, and somewhere in between the fireworks and Lady Gaga and Bill Belichick walking back, I thought he was going to come back for the second half with a hoodie on, but he didn't. And it's just mind-boggling what happened, especially in the last 17 minutes of the game.
So
regular.
So what would you say did happen, James?
Select plays were made. When you recover the onside kick, but you don't score. And I'm talking about the Falcons.
Yep.
That's an opportunity that you missed. The Donta Hightower strip sack where the running back doesn't even get a hand on the linebacker. If he does, then the ball gets out. I hate to criticize play calling because when I was coaching, I had an offensive coordinator who drummed this in me, and I still believe it. It's not the play call, but the execution of the play. And certainly we can look in that rearview mirror and say, oh, if you had run the ball, you were in field goal range, yeah, sure. But you scored 540 points during the season. And sometimes the bully piles it on, and their offense had been a bully all year long. So they're just thinking, we're going for it. We got here by being aggressive. We're going to continue to be aggressive. And it kind of backfired on them. Yeah,
but I mean, when Julio Jones catches the ball and you're now on the 22-yard line with 4.5 to go,
I don't disagree with you.
How do you not sit there and how does and I look and I know, walk me through this from a coaching perspective. Then I mean, Dan Quinn thinks that how do I get in Kyle Shanahan's ear with 4.5 to go of a Super Bowl when I haven't done it all year long? Is that how that works?
I don't know their rapport.
Right.
I know when I was coaching with the Chargers and Marty Schottenheimer was our head coach, if when we had a situation like that, he would just get on that little headset communication, and everybody on offense heard it. Run the ball. Run the ball. And it's the same thing. We go back to Seattle against New England in the Super Bowl with the ball on the 1-yard line. Somebody needs to be there to override and say, run the ball. So it happens, and it happened twice in a game where New England looked like they, what do you say? You snatch victory from the jaws of defeat.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens.
James Lofton joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show, and as somebody who spent those years in Buffalo, how tough is it going to be for it? Well, I mean, come on, you knew this question was coming. How difficult is it going to be? Because this feels like, and with all due respect, I mean, you weren't there.
Yeah.
This feels like 4 losses in one, James.
And what this will be for the players, and this will be the condensed version of it, if they can get over it this quickly. For the next 30 days, each one of those players, every coach, everyone who's involved in that organization will wake up at 3 a.m. and they will go, we were up 28-9. And there will be no sleep after that. No sleep at all.
And then? What happens?
And then the combine will come, and they will see Rich Eisen run his field, and they will be encouraged that there is a goal to commit to.
Nice.
And the next season is about to start. See, that's the beginning of the next season. When you run that 40-yard dash.
Yes. It's all
spring hope's all eternal.
So, but in all seriousness, though, I mean, next fall.
Oh, it's hard.
Right?
It's hard.
I mean, next fall, even if they start 9-0, even if they're 13-3 going to the playoffs as a 2-seed or a 1-seed.
One thing that the coach has to talk about, you talk about this team, because the team that played in the Super Bowl the other night in Houston will never be assembled again. Sure, you'll have a lot of the primary guys, and Julio Jones will be back, Matt Ryan, and the offensive line, and all these young players on defense. But that was last year's team, and I think that's the important thing with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. We look at those two, but every one of those teams is a little different, and the extra players are different every year. This is a team, the Patriots, that got rid of arguably their best player at the trading deadline in Jamie Collins, and at the time, I think they had 13 sacks through 8 games. And you're thinking they're getting rid of one of the guys who gets after the passer, and then they had 21 sacks the next 8 games. So you make moves, things happen, you evolve, and you have to move on. You have to move on. You'll be reminded of it.
James Lofton.
And you'll be even more reminded of it if you get to that stage again next year.
Pro Football Hall of Famer James Lofton joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. What was it like being in that selection room on Saturday, James?
Well, I'm going to cut right to it because I had 75 touchdowns during the course of my career. The guy that we didn't let in had 153. When I look at, I can look at all of T.O.'s other numbers, but I had a hard time with that, and I had a hard time with, obviously, the discussions that go on in the room I think are private, but the voting obviously isn't private. Just like. We just had a national election. There were emotions on both sides. So here's a guy that I looked at, and what he did on the football field I just thought was phenomenal. And from a person who did the same thing and who really appreciates the position, I'm at a loss for words.
Well, I mean, you aren't allowed, from what I'm understanding, to say specifically the name of a person who said what. That's anonymous. But the general tenor of the discussion is allowed to be discussed. I mean, but Terrell Owens was not let in because a bunch of a predominant amount of the writers heard about some of the stories that may or may not have happened in the locker room, and Correct. The fact that he was cut or he was traded, let loose by 3 other of the teams. I mean,
well, Jerry Rice was also on multiple teams. Other guys were on multiple teams. And if you're cut or traded, that means the next person wants you.
So what did you say in the room? Were you just sitting there shaking your head over this thing, or did
no?
You...
I spoke, and I spoke on his behalf. It's funny because I've been in draft rooms where a player comes up and you get the phrase, "Oh, they stood up on the table for him." Like somebody had to stand up on the table to make the Julio Jones trade. And say, this is what we need to do, blah, blah, blah. So when Terrell Owens came up, his presenter came up, and I might have been the second person to chime in. And, I looked at what happened on that 100 by 53 and a third yard field, and what I saw was pretty special. What I saw was Hall of Fame worthy.
And so after James Lofton, Pro Football Hall of Famer, stood up in the room after the individual who presented T.O., said this guy's a Hall of Famer, he still was not voted in. Is that what I'm basically to understand?
Oh, yeah. And that's very correct.
Wow. Why wasn't the commissioner, Paul Tagliabue, prior to Roger Goodell let in?
Now, that I don't know as much about. There was just more discussion on both sides, and obviously he didn't get the 80% because his was not a reduction vote. All he had to do was get 80%.
Right.
So I think if there were 48, he needed is that 39 votes? Because I know it's 38.4. And
right.
I didn't look around and see the 0.4 person in the room.
And again, what you mean by reduction vote is the 15 finalists are
15 to 10 down to 5.
And T.O. didn't even make it down to the 10, right? That's what
Correct.
I heard. Wow. James,
I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble.
You're not. No, you're not. You're not, because you get in trouble if you say this specific.
It will be published later on. We had a big fact book which showed the reduction voting for all the years of the Hall of Fame voting.
So T.O. is a Hall of Famer in your mind. Randy Moss next year too, obviously, right, James?
Well, and one of the things for guys who don't make the Hall of Fame, and you look and you go, oh, it was close. For those guys, you just say not yet. The thing I'm concerned about with Terrell Owens is that is he being treated like these guys who use steroids in baseball, and I don't think that should be the case at all.
So are you going to do this again next year too?
Yeah, if they don't kick me off.
No, they're not going to kick you. So and once again, you don't get a vote. You don't get a vote.
I will say this.
Yes.
It was one of. See, I sat in the room last year, and you remember how in college you say somebody's auditing a class.
Sure, of course.
So I got to audit the meeting last year. I sat in there for 10 hours last year. I didn't get to vote or anything like that. But to me, it was one of the most important things that I've done in pro football. Obviously I got to play, I got to coach, I get to broadcast, but getting to vote on welcoming guys into the Hall of Fame, because that's more the way I look at it. I'm not trying to keep somebody out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the 18 candidates that we had, and obviously the 15 that are kind of going head to head, and kind of trying to think,
Mm-hmm.
okay, who can I get in this time? Which 5 can I get in? And there were the 15 are there because they're worthy.
Mm-hmm.
They're not there because it's some type of lark, but they've had fantastic careers, and for some of them it's just not yet. We always get asked this question, Rich, if you could pick any 3 people in history that you'd want to have lunch with,
sure,
who would the 3 people be? And you'd come up with 3 great names, and they go, okay, but you can only have one. And that's what the Hall of Fame voting was like. Here are 15 phenomenal players through the course of history, but you can only let 5 in.
And you got to vote, correct? You did vote? You did vote?
Yeah, I voted.
All right. James, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. I'll see you down the line.
It's medium, huh? That's
you got it. Oh, yes. That's how I roll. Take care.
All right, Rich.
Take care, James.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.